In August 2001, a week before 9/11 changed the world, Juan Zarate joined the Treasury Department as a senior advisor leading the U.S. Treasury's efforts to disrupt terrorist financing. Fittingly, his first task was to obstruct al-Qaeda's money flow, preventing further attacks by targeting specific banks, couriers, wire transfers, and hawaladars that handled the terrorist group's finances. Little did he know, however, that the U.S.'s reaction to 9/11 would not only fail to win the war on terror but would secure the foundations for a new era of U.S. financial supremacy. Winston Churchill once said, "You must never let a good crisis go to waste," and that's exactly what then-President Bush set in motion, authorizing Executive Order 13224. Swiftly, via the Office of Foreign Assets Control (OFAC), he gave Treasury officials the requisite powers to exile anyone who they considered a terrorist threat from the U.S. financial system. The U.S. failed to combat terrorism, but OFAC and Zarate succeeded in their mission. Employing Director Rick Newcomb's veteran experience at the Treasury Department, he knew exactly how to impair bin Laden's financial network, disabling the flow of dirty money. But this begs the question: how could one man simply flick a switch and boot someone out of the entire global financial system? That's where the US dollar hegemony came into play. With America's financial monopoly in place, US officials realized the power of possessing the global reserve currency in an increasingly interconnected world. Never in history has an empire been able to systematically control global finance through digital networks. Since New York has become the global banking capital, to be a serious player, you must do business in America, and to do that, you need US dollars. As every greenback transaction passes through the US clearing system, countries, companies, and individuals must remain in Uncle Sam's good books to participate in global trade. To achieve complete monetary dominance in the modern world of finance, however, your currency needs to govern not one but two systems: the global financial system and the global shadow banking system. Though, fortunately for America, the financial elites, the megabanks, the pension funds, and the mega-rich who conveniently resided in the United States, had backed the US dollar to become the principal medium of exchange in both. It all started in the 1960s. While governments had started to dismantle the Bretton Woods system, ending gold's reign as the global reserve and replacing it with the US dollar. Behind the scenes, the global monetary system had already evolved to use the greenback as the new reserve currency. As the need for global transactions increased, from funding new agricultural projects in China to financing new real estate deals in Japan, institutions worldwide needed a way to transact in various currencies, and traditionally, they had used banker acceptances, a fancy cashier's check, to make global trades. This was a laborious method, so a new system emerged to replace it: the Eurodollar system. The unofficial yet official shadow banking layer that took over, not by some conspiracy, but to meet the increased demand that globalization created. At first, Eurodollars were just US dollar-denominated deposits that sat outside the US system, free from Federal Reserve Bank regulations. But as globalization increased and technology advanced, the Eurodollar system grew in complexity. Eurodollar expert Jeffrey Snyder describes the modern system as a computer network, a system of protocols to facilitate global trade. With each passing decade, we've drifted further from sound money toward financial alchemy. Through accounting tricks, financial institutions have used the Eurodollar system to create trillions of dollars out of thin air and have used that money to finance operations, creating chains upon chains of liabilities known as derivates. The derivates market, denominated in US dollars, dwarfs any other market in size, which sounds okay but really it's just a ticking time bomb. By the time bin Laden had struck in 2001, the US dollar and Eurodollar system had become unstoppable forces, and Bush's executive order was the nail in the coffin for competing currencies. Everyone had gained confidence in a global reserve currency backed by thin air and a shadow banking system run by financial oligarchs. It's clear that the US dollar hegemony has not been a good thing for the world, especially since the Eurodollar system collapsed in August 2007. In the past decade, we have witnessed what happens to countries that try to break free from this system. Complying with US sanctions on Iran, the SWIFT network, which enables financial institutions to send secure payments worldwide, banned Iranian banks' access to its system, sending the Iranian economy into a nosedive. And when the Chinese tried to free themselves, a huge yuan devaluation caused a stock market meltdown worldwide. Whenever the Federal Reserve turns off the liquidity taps, financial conditions worldwide decay to the brink of collapse. During a global dollar shortage in late 2018, a Trump tweet prompted an instant 10% depreciation in the Turkish lira. It was so damning that President Erdogan urged his citizens to give up their gold to help prop it up. Financial contagion then spread throughout currency markets, with the South African rand and Swedish krona plunging for no reason other than they had emerging market status. These recent monetary episodes show how easy it is for the US to remain top dog. In the style of Sun Tzu, why wage a physical war, spending billions on military equipment and intelligence, when you can just as easily crush your opponents by restricting their access to key global financial networks, or crashing their currency via social media? For those who think America's collapse is looming, they must acknowledge the truth that it's almost impossible to achieve anything outside the US dollar's hegemony. As a global corporation, you're denied access to the biggest, most stable economy. As a country, you're exiled from huge flows of capital. As an individual, you become an outlaw. It will take a series of momentous black swan events to overthrow the greenback once and for all. Despite its many flaws as a currency, other countries, states, and nations have followed the US dollar's decoupling from sound money since the 1960s. There's increasing talk of America becoming a failed state, but its flawed economic system has spread globally. Every country possesses equal characteristics: massive debt to GDP, huge asset bubbles in stocks, real estate, and bonds, a soon-to-be insolvent banking system, to name a few. Dollar bears will have to present something more convincing than Triffin's paradox to persuade everyone that the US dollar will implode anytime soon. Considering all reserve currencies do die eventually, we know the US dollar will collapse. But we're talking about a gradual collapse alike to Rome's and Mesopotamia's that will span over decades, not over months or years. As history only rhymes and never repeats, the US dollar's reserve status is, of course, unique. The world has never been more interconnected and technological, two things that bolster the power of a modern-day reserve currency. Since this is now the key to global dominance, America will try everything to preserve the US dollar hegemony while other global superpowers try to find a way out or a way around it. As every attempt to escape the greenback continues to fail spectacularly, its dominance will persist, enabling America to rule, not just financially, but on all fronts, and doing so without firing a single shot.